How's it going, everybody? As some of you already know, I'm not a big fan when people use buzzwords to bring their point across. It usually is just something that's used to rally more people behind their cause, whether that one's justified or not. Pay to win is one of the most common ones that had its meaning absolutely butchered and watered down, and with the introduction of Warmonger, a new one has made its entrance into our community here. Powercreep is being thrown around. If anyone's unfamiliar with that term, it basically means that newly introduced content into a game is far stronger than the old. Reason for that is irrelevant for it, as long as the new one is better than the old. And let's be honest, that is quite a normal development for games, and live service games in particular. Yet Powercreep has quite the negative connotation to it. I'm actually surprised it took so long for it to be brought up. Like I said, Powercreep is often used to show this phenomenon in a negative light, while it not necessarily has to be. We'll talk about Warmonger in just a second, but I think it's important to get a general idea when it comes to introducing new and sometimes strong things into a game. Let's all be honest, the fact that a game is being supported for a long time is one of the reasons why we keep playing it. Having roadmaps that outline upcoming things, having events for new fashion, all that is for player retention. And as sad as it is, games nowadays release in very poor states sometimes. Day one patches are often needed, and quite frequently, games feel unfinished. Developers have strict release dates. It's even worse with third-party publishers that don't really care how a game gets shipped. The point here is that certain things might have to be cut during development already. Big features that devs would have liked to explore for themselves. And DLCs, new heroes, new weapons, whatever item from whatever game it is. These are new opportunities for them to introduce us to said features. So while new heroes have new, sometimes more powerful things, it is, at least to some degree, just the natural progression of a game. Imagine if For Honor continued to only release heroes with the same base mechanics as the initial 12. Granted, they mostly continued with these very mechanics and just slightly altered them. Shinobi was the first DLC hero that introduced something completely new, with his ranged heavies. We all know how that ended, a very polarizing move that can only be used in very specific situations, otherwise he'll be heavily punished for it. Shaman was the first hero with tri-direction soft feints as well as forward dodge attacks. None of the forward dodge attacks were even feintable at that point. Like I said, they just played around with the base mechanics, but these characters without a doubt, well some of them at least, were stronger than the old god. And while balance has always been an issue, the game would have been so much worse if they hadn't done all that. It is important to introduce new things that shake up whatever meta might have existed at that point. I'm not going to deny that some things that came with new heroes were definitely over the top. Bulwark counter, being able to flip pretty much everything in existence from drop attacks to feats, definitely fits the definition of power creep. The ability, to this day, is still extremely powerful and is the single best defensive move in terms of overall utility. Black Prior in general, with his access to almost every mechanic in the game from fast bashes to superior lights, on top of his bulwark counter, is an absolute powerhouse. But he also had positive effects on the game. A different ability to deal with attacks not logged onto you is something I'd like to see on more heroes. And this is the point that's most important when it comes to the topic of power creep. At first, it's obviously only one new hero that has access to this new feature. Over time, the experience developers gain from creating such a hero and having him field tested by tons of players should result in overall better game health. And we've seen this in reworks quite successfully actually. The reworked Ward and Shoulder Bash made him a dueling monster. Kensei's rework with the added soft feints, feintable zone, all that enhanced his kit and made him to one of the best mid-heroes in Dominion. So what about Warmonger then? Why is it now that this term gets thrown around? Kit-wise, she didn't really introduce anything spectacular. The only thing truly unique are feintable unblockable side dodge heavies. But the way they are implemented, the best use for them is to use their hitbox to target someone to the sides of you, who you're not logged onto. Her other things like the bash, the impale, all that stuff already existed in the game in pretty much the exact same way. The thing that puts her over the top and probably the reason for all the accusations are because of her feats. We've talked about this at length, I think we're all tired of it already. The connection that's being made now is that they're only going to stay broken for the next 2 weeks and will be nerfed once the hero comes out of early access, which was locked behind a paywall. So once Ubisoft cashed in, she will be adjusted. Everybody should be aware that I'm the first one to call shit out and complain about things. But I don't think you can actually make a case here. We'd have seen this type of behavior in the past then. I mean, people certainly accused them of this before, especially with March and Fire when the Woolen released. The sentiment of characters releasing too strong to boost sale numbers just doesn't hold up with For Honor. Are you going to tell me that heroes like Highlander, or Ramusha, or Jun-Hu were released in their state for monetary reasons? Many characters have been released in horrible states. No one would have bought Warmonger because he was an overpowered hero when he came out. While this type of predatory behavior might be true in many other games, I honestly don't think For Honor fits the bill here. The devs simply tested the boundaries of what's possible with feats, and they overshot the mark by miles. I think everyone can agree that they need adjustments, whether Ubisoft waits and analyzes the data they might get from the next few weeks, or if they simply realize that a tier 4 feat as a tier 1 is unhealthy for the game, well, we will see. But like I said, progress in a game is a good thing. We want new things. We want innovations that can potentially lead to an overall better game. Setbacks are to be expected, same as them misjudging things, like in Warmonger's case. I didn't expect it to such a massive degree, but I don't think we can fault them for trying. It's time to bring them in line with the rest. Well, rather establish a new line. All the feats should be balanced around. Damage feats are still obscenely high when it comes to the numbers, while others remain almost unusable. But to sum it up, power creep doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, and its negative connotation might mask the positive effects it has on games. I hope the For Honor developers continue to try and bring new things to the table. Let me know what you think. Having said all that, I hope the video was interesting. Thanks for watching. Laters everybody.